everybody, and welcome to the Paws for Stitches podcast. My name is Candy, and I am coming to you from Central New Jersey. Welcome. I want to say a huge welcome to anybody who is coming back to join in on this craziness again. And also, I wanted to welcome anybody new who may have stumbled upon this podcast somehow. Everybody is welcome. Definitely, always. So I'm glad that you found me if you did. And of course, I'm glad that you keep coming back if you've done so as well. Real quick, just a couple things to get out of the way. If anybody is looking to find me on social media, you can find me at Paws for Stitches. That's with the number 4. I'll put that down for you to see. Paws for Stitches, and the two places that I frequent most with relation to the podcast are definitely Instagram and Ravelry. We have a fabulous Ravelry group that is growing. I think we're inching closer to 100 members, so I'm really excited about that. But if you go to Ravelry and you look up the Paws for Stitches podcast group, you should be able to find us there. And there are definitely a bunch of interesting threads going on. I just recently did a little bit of purging, I think that would be the right word to use, or reorganizing, I guess. And I archived some of like the older episode threads, and I archived, knit-alongs and contests and things like that are over. So hopefully it doesn't look as overwhelming when you go in there. You should be able to find what you're looking for pretty easily, I would imagine. The other thing I'm thinking about doing too, because this is episode 16, I'm excited about that. We're inching closer to 20 episodes, which is awesome. I'm thinking about finally putting one of those like Ask Me Anything threads in there. I don't have an exciting life. I'm not an indie dyer. I'm not, I don't know, like this isn't really related to anything except, well, dogs that just knocked cameras out of the way. But let me adjust that a little bit. There we go. I'm sure that will happen again. By the way, those of you who are coming back, that was Clarence. And those of you who are new, Clarence is one of my 2 Labrador retrievers. And, he has to be all up in everybody's business all the time. So anyway, what I was saying was I don't have that exciting of a life. But, if you have any questions for me, or you'd like to get to know me a little bit better, or there's something you want to know, I will go ahead and open up that thread, because I know that there have been a lot of times that when I watch a podcast, I'm tempted. I'm curious about somebody, and I don't know, it's nice to have a way to kind of ask those questions and get to know people a little bit better. So I'm going to plop that in there as well for anybody who is interested. The one other thread that I wanted to mention that is up and active right now, and probably kind of winding down, I suppose, a while back, right around the election, as some of you may recall, I did start a random hats of kindness cal. And basically the gist of that was that if you knit a hat and you knit it with the intention of giving it to somebody else to bring them joy, take a picture of it, plop it in the thread, post your picture, and tell us who you're gifting it to. And that's it. I don't know. I wanted to think of a way to encourage people to be kind to one another. I feel like we're living in a world right now where, unfortunately, it almost seems like it's becoming appropriate to not be so kind. So to me, there are so many ways to be thoughtful and kind towards others, but handing somebody that you put your heart and soul into knitting or making somehow is often a huge surprise. Sometimes people don't always realize or appreciate the amount of time and thought you put into it. But I think for the most part, when I gift things that I've knitted or crocheted to people, it brings me such joy. So I hope that it does the same for you. And if it involves a hat and you've done so, go ahead and enter that random hats of kindness cal. Basically, just the last thing I wanted to mention about that is that the knit-along will be running through the end of the day on Valentine's Day. I figured since we're sharing some hat love with one another, that seemed like an appropriate day to kind of end it. And I will be drawing a prize for that. So I would imagine probably that will happen by the time I film the next episode. I'm not going to announce the prize right this second because it's kind of related to some mail and a little bit of show and tell that I received a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to hold that thought for now, but I will definitely mention that before the end of the podcast. So I think those are basically the introductions. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. I actually have a finished object to share with you guys that is something that I was working on several months ago, right around the fall, which I find ironic because I really wanted this shawl for the fall, and obviously it did not happen. The other thing I wanted this shawl for was because I was participating in the Big Bad Burgalong knit along that was being sponsored by I think 7 different amazing podcasters. I'm not going to bother going down the list of them now because the knit along is long over. Hey Clarence, why are you scratching, buddy? But anyway, I still continued to be big, bad, and burging along because the project that I had been working on was Melanie Berg's On the Spice Market shawl. And those of you who've been viewers of the podcast may remember that I was lovingly calling this my On the Pumpkin Spice Latte Market shawl because I had scored myself some absolutely fabulous yarn back in the fall, I think right around October, from Kayleen, who is Little Bean Crochet. If you have not seen or checked out her yarn, please go ahead and do so. It's absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait to get some more, but I didn't want to do that until I actually, honored the yarn from her that I did already purchase. On the Spice Market, as you know, involves several colors. It's a multicolored shawl, so sort of what I did was I built my color choices for this shawl around the pumpkin spice latte set that I had purchased from Kayleen. Because this is so old news at this point, I'm not going to say a lot about all of the different yarns I used. I will make sure I put that in my show notes so that those of you who've never seen this before, if you're interested, you'll know. But I'm just excited to show you guys that I finally finished it. But before I show it, I want to give a special shout out to one of my friends, one of the very special women in my Thursday night knitting group at the Yarn Attic, who is Jean, because I think Jean knows this now because I just told her the other night, but she had started working on the Spice Market shawl, and I saw her working on it, I guess, a couple weeks ago at Thursday night knit night, and I'm like, holy cow. What I realized I had totally forgotten about my Spice Market shawl. I put it into, not hibernation on purpose. I think I really just started working on so many other things that I had forgotten. I had neglected it, terribly. So I want to say thank you to Jean because her shawl, the colors that she has, I think she told me she got a kit, but oh my goodness, it's going to be stunning. I'm so excited for her that she's working on it because I think it is absolutely such a unique and beautiful and lovely pattern. So Jean, thank you so much for inspiring me to pick mine back up again, because when I did, I realized that I was only, I think, 2.5 stripes from the end in the bind off, and that was all I needed to do. So last night I stayed up until 12:30, I think, and I just finished it, and that is really what I wanted to show you guys. So here it is. Da-da-da-da. Again, this is one of those shawls that's so hard to show because it's so huge. This is obviously, as you could tell, not blocked yet. I'm hoping that bind off, it was the kind of bind off, I don't think I'm giving away anything secret here, where you actually knit one and then you move 2 stitches back to the left needle and you knit 2 together through the back, and then so on and so on. So it has a little bit of an odd sort of ripple thing going on right now, but I think that's going to work itself out in the blocking. But I just, again, just in case you're wondering about the pumpkin spice latte, this right here, let me see if I can get this straight. It was this color, the really, really pretty orange color. And then this one here, that was sort of kind of hard to show right now, sort of almost like a variegated. So it kind of looks like it has some, I don't know, I keep thinking in my head, it's almost like the cream that you would put into your latte, or the steamed milk of the latte kind of mixed in. So the colors just really everything worked out so pretty. So Kayleen, thank you so much for kind of coming up with and dyeing the yarn that was the inspiration to start this. I'm going to probably try and block this tonight and get some photos done so that I can, really get started wearing this, even though it was something that I had hoped to have finished back in the fall. So that is that. Put that aside for the moment. What I'm going to talk about right now was something that started out, it wasn't necessarily going to be a knit along or something that involved, prizes or giveaways or anything like that. But if you recall from the last episode, I was talking about how I was very distraught the entire month of December. My knitting was not bringing me joy. It was bringing me stress. And it was because I had waited so long to finish up with a lot of my Christmas knitting, which I know is not a rookie mistake. It's something that we do often. And it's a hard thing to wrap your head around because although you love knitting gifts for people, which I absolutely do, I don't like when my knitting is stressful. So I decided that I wanted to change that in 2017. And I also decided that after I realized that one of the biggest gift hits that I had given out for Christmas just in December was a pair of mittens that I had gifted to a colleague, to a friend of mine. And I enjoyed making them so much. I've not really been a big mitten knitter, so it was something that was a little bit new to me. I figured, okay, if I can knit a sock, I can knit a mitten. I had done fingerless mitts, but I had never done anything, mitten with a thumb and the gusset and all of that stuff. So I fell in love, and I had used to start off with for these other mittens that were out of a Noro, I think, Curion. I used Susan B. Anderson's Waiting for Winter mittens pattern, which is a fabulous beginner mitten pattern for anybody who is looking for one. And I enjoyed it so much that I decided to make another pair. So this is a finished object that I wanted to show you guys. I'm calling these my Rutgers mittens. For those of you who know anything about Rutgers University, obviously the colors are black and red. So this yarn actually, where is it? I have a bunch of it left actually. This is Molly Girl yarn. Molly Girl was actually at Vogue Knitting Live, which was fun. It was so great to see her stuff all set up on display. But I just want to make sure I have this correct. This is the her Rockstar base, which is, it's 100% superwash merino, and the colorway that I'm using is called Rosalita Come Out Tonight. And so it is just a super squishy, awesome DK weight yarn. I absolutely loved working with this. And what was really fun, I'm going to put my mitts back on again. These are the Waiting for Winter mittens by Susan B. Anderson. I really liked sort of how the colors work themselves out. Even though Rutgers is black and red, I like that this actually has almost like hints of sort of gray and white mixed in with there. I think these are going to be super fun. These are actually for a friend of mine, and I'm going to be gifting them to her very shortly. And I think sometimes she watches the podcast, so I probably just ruined this big time, but that's okay. Knowing this particular friend, she is amazing, and she will totally play along and pretend that she never saw this, even if she did. But I just had to show you guys how they came out. The other thing I was super excited about was because there was so much, I think I had bought 2 skeins of the yarn because I had every intention of making a hat as well. And I wasn't really sure what hat I wanted to make because, again, sometimes it can be tricky with yarn that's sort of variegated like that to know how it's going to work itself out in something like a hat. But I decided to give it a shot, and I had always wanted to try the Tin Can Knits barley hat. Never made one before, but I've always been intrigued by it because it's sort of a pretty simple, for the most part, stockinette stitch hat, but then there's a panel of it that is garter stitch, so it kind of just adds a little bit of interesting texture to a pretty simple hat pattern. So here is what I did. Okay, I went ahead and I'm trying to show you guys where the, you can see where the where the garter stitch section is there, and then it kind of switches over. Okay, so I knew I'd have more than enough to make matching hat and knits. It's interesting how different they sort of look. Like this pops more with the red and the black, but as you can see, I think the crowning jewel of this hat is the raccoon pom-pom that I could not help but put on there. I don't want to put this on because, like I said, it's not for me, it's for a friend, but I gotta get myself one of those fake heads, right? I think everybody needs a fake head sometime in their lives. So I don't know. I saw a couple people that had one that I really liked. I wanted to reach out and figure out where they got it. I don't even know where one buys one of those fake heads. I'm assuming Amazon because you can pretty much find anything on there, but I'll have to give it a shot. Anyway, so voila, we have a mitten and hat gift set ready to be gifted, ready to be put out into the world. Actually, like within 2 weeks. So I'm really, really super excited about that. So now let me get on to this whole mitten kick. And let me tell you a little bit more about why mittens are like my new big thing that I'm absolutely in love with. One of the things I talked about, I mentioned it in the last episode, and I think there are a few people who are excited about this and are coming along for the ride. For myself, as I said before, so that I'm not stressed again in 2017 when we get closer to Christmas, what I've decided is that I am challenging myself to knit just one mitten every month. Because if you do the math, what I calculated, obviously, not in a not very complicated manner, is that if I do one mitten a month, that by the time I get to Christmas, I should have 6 pairs of mittens that will be ready to gift to 6 amazing people in my life. So I think that's pretty good. I mean, normally I need more than 6 gifts for people, but I figure that is 6 gifts that I will not be knitting or crafting or crocheting like a crazy person in the month of December as Christmas draws near. And I think too, it's a manageable goal for me, at least personally, to knit one mitten a month between now and Christmas. So that's sort of how the Mitten a Month challenge was born. It was really born as a way for me to prevent myself from having any kind of gift knitting stress this particular Christmas, months and months away from now. But then I kind of started thinking, I'm like, maybe this is somebody that other people would like to do as well. So I wanted everybody to know that there is a Mitten a Month challenge knit along, a cal. And by the way, people ask, could they be crocheted? Absolutely, always. I'm actually probably going to be looking into that as well. I don't know. My crochet skills are still fairly new, so I have a feeling most of my mittens will be knitted this year. But who knows? Maybe I'll be adventurous and try something else as well. But I have opened a thread in the Paws for Stitches podcast Ravelry group. There is a Mitten a Month chatter thread, and then there is a finished objects thread as well. What I decided is that I'm going to kind of give out a prize every other month. So if it kind of makes sense to me that if I have a thread that's open for January and February, that when I close that thread for the prize at the end of February, that should mean if you've knitted one mitten in January and one mitten in February, that you already have one gift, one pair of mittens ready to gift. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do. So there will be a prize thread, a finished objects thread for January, February, March, April, and so on and so on and so on. So we're several weeks away, a few weeks away still for that prize drawing, but there already are a few people that have plopped some mittens in there. So definitely go check that out. What I'm loving about inviting other people to join me in this challenge is that I'm getting some fabulous ideas about mittens that I would like to try to create myself. I wanted to give a huge special thank you to Rosalba, who is definitely somebody who jumped on the Mitten a Month challenge pretty quickly. When check out her some of her posts in the thread because she's got some amazing mittens going herself. But what was intriguing to me was when she mentioned that she was creating a mitten bundle in her on her Ravelry page. You guys, seriously, sometimes I really do think I live under a rock. She said this, and I'm like, oh, a bundle? What is a bundle? I had absolutely no idea what that was or how to make it. But I knew that for a project, for like a long-term goal like this, that it would definitely be something worth exploring, and I did. So I, too, have created a mitten bundle for this Mitten a Month challenge. So basically, anytime I see or find a mitten pattern that I'm thinking of as a possible pattern I might like to try, I'm putting it in this bundle. What I did also for you guys is that I linked the thread to my bundle in the very, very first post in the Mitten a Month chatter thread. So again, please, no judgment. There are I'm plopping anything in there, just if it I don't know, if it spikes my curiosity, or I don't even know, I haven't looked very closely at some of the patterns. Some of them are free patterns, some of them are paid for patterns. It's a mishmash of a lot of different things. So, but feel free to go and check that out. And feel free to, especially in that chatter thread, to share some mitten patterns that you're finding too that you might like to try as well if you're up for this challenge. The last thing I'll say about the Mitten of the Month challenge for me is that the other thing I like about mittens and other small projects is that sometimes it's a nice way to try something new. As you'll see in a moment, the next mitten that I've cast on has given me the opportunity to try something else that I've never tried before. And I think that's going to be my goal for this, is that each time I start a new mitten pattern, I'm going to choose it. I don't know exactly how, but sort of with the intention of, oh, there's something about that mitten that's different or unique, or like a new to me sort of technique or something that I've never tried before. My goal by the end of the year is to work myself up to some of those just freaking amazing Scandinavian mitten patterns that I've seen. Again, I'm gonna put up a couple pictures maybe here. There was a mitten, I think it was called a Newfoundland mitten, that looked interesting. It looked like, I don't know if it had some maybe slip stitch kind of stuff going on with different colors. That one was amazing. There was another mitten pattern that had a lot of things I seem to be intrigued by cabling. That was definitely something that you'll notice as a pattern. But there was this amazing, I think it was called a songbird mitten pattern that I found that was 2 colors, color work, but you'll see it. I'll put up a picture of it. It actually has a bird on the mitten, and it is just absolutely stunning and beautiful. So I don't know. I've got lofty goals, people, always, but we shall see how this goes. So please come along, join in on the Mitten a Month challenge, because if you do, then you also could not only be to enter yourself for some prizes, but how great would it be if by December 25th, or for whatever holiday you're gifting those mittens for, you would have 6 pairs already ready to wrap up and give out and spread that, comfy mitten joy to the world. All right, to celebrate the Mitten a Month challenge, you know what though? I'm going to wait on that. I was going to show you guys something, but I'm going to move into the other mitten so I guess this is a hoe. I have one of them finished, but I'm putting another mitten on right now. And, oh wow, there we go. Now you can kind of see it. This is my New Horizons mitten, which is a pattern by my dear friend Jen Sheelan of the Jen Sheelan podcast, who, by the way, if you have not been following her on Instagram and you're a dog lover, you need to go and check her out right now, because she and her Frank Sheelan and her Doug Sheelan have just welcomed a new family member to their house by the name of Chelsea the Bulldog. And holy cow, I've always been a big Bulldog fan. I love following Knittables on Instagram, as a million other people do. But Jen and Frank Sheelan now have another dog in the family. They rescued a bulldog named Chelsea, and she is absolutely precious. So go check that out. But Jen, too, I'm sure many of you know this, but Jen designs absolutely beautiful patterns. I've never knitted any of her sort of accessories. I've been knitting all of her jar patterns and her Christmas ball patterns and things like that. So this mitten, the New Horizons mitten, as you can see here, is the first. It's actually in a set called the New Horizons set, because there is a matching hat and a matching cowl as well. But I chose to start with the mittens, and let me show you why. Because one of the things that I thought was really intriguing about this pattern was the cabled cuff, which I thought was super pretty. I was a little intimidated by that at first because I thought to myself, when if you're first casting on, obviously, you're trying to keep that first round from not twisting. That's always the biggest challenge. But on top of that, you're already like, bam, you're getting into that cabling. So I was really interested and curious about this, and I am super pleased at how this turned out. By the way, for those of you who are wondering, the yarn that I used for this, where is it? I have the ball band in here. The other thing, as I'm pulling this out, I also too thought that it might be fun to try as best as I can to stash dye for some of the yarn for these mittens that I'm making, because I know I have tons. At least I thought I did. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but I know I have some yarn at least that would be perfect for mittens. This was Rowan felted tweed, okay, that I used for this. And I don't know if you can really see it, but every once in a while there's a pop of like sort of a bluish gray in there. So it's so pretty, and very neutral. The other thing too that's hard about this project, knowing that I want to gift these to people, is finding things that, I have enough of a variety that I could pick up a pair of finished mittens and think, oh, so-and-so will probably like these. So I have to try to keep that in mind as well as I'm going through this project. So Jen, thank you so much. I highly recommend this pattern. It was so easy to follow, a really fun knit. And I'm actually, while I'm showing you things, I'm a pretty good way along already on the next one. So, oops, that was my, what do you call it, waste yarn that's going to be probably ready pretty soon. But there we go. I've already started the next one. So if we think about what I just said about the Mitten a Month challenge, I wanted to knit 1 mitten a month, okay? Now, at first, I was like, I was bragging a little bit, perhaps, because I kept thinking that I was going to count these 2 Rutgers mitts that I already showed you, thinking like, oh, wow, it's already, the end of January, and I'm already done with 2 mitts. I'm actually not going to count those because they are mittens that I'm going to be gifting to a friend shortly. So they're not a gift that's going to be gifted for Christmas 2017. So I feel like it would be cheating to count those now. I wanted to show you guys what I did in my bullet journal, though. I am a little bit of a dork, I will admit it. It's still not even finished. I haven't completely set it up yet, but I made this for myself. It's a little Mitten a Month challenge page where I have, I don't know if you can see what I did there, but I made, oh gosh, I can't hold this up. I made little kind of banner flags for each month of the year so that each time I finish a mitten, I can color it in, and I can really kind of use this as just a fun bullet journal-y way to keep myself on track. So far the only mitten that I colored in is that one for January, which represents my finished New Horizons mitten that I just showed you guys from Jen Sheelan. So that is where we stand with the Mitten a Month challenge. Definitely go check it out. The only other thing I wanted to mention about that is that, because hopefully I will have it cast on in a good ways on the move by the time I see you guys next. But the next pattern I'm going to try is one called the Possessed Printer Mittens. And that is by Emma Galati. And this is a pattern that my good friend Juliet was working on when we went to Vogue Knitting Live together. And it was so intriguing because there is this crazy thing that happens with a really elongated slip stitch that is, and the way the pattern describes, I don't have a copy of the printed pattern yet. I haven't even printed it out yet, or I would read you the description. But what really struck me is that it said that this particular mitten pattern is great for highly variegated yarns, that sometimes you're just not 100% sure of what's going to happen with that striping or pooling or flashing or any whatever the case might be. So I thought that was intriguing. It called for a DK weight yarn, and I'm on the fence. I did have this in my stash, thanks to my good friend Dariona from Ireland, as part of my Advent swap. She had sent me, check that out, this gorgeous skein of I believe I'm pronouncing it correctly, Camara yarn. It's Camara yarn and fiber from Ireland. and I do not remember what this is actually. It's called Lismore Gardens in Spring, which is awesome because that Lismore is actually where Dariona is from. So this color I thought was absolutely beautiful. So it's possible that I could use this for those possessed printer mitts, which, by the way, hopefully by now I've already put a picture of them so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. The other thing, because at first I forgot that I had that skein of yarn, which would work for this project, I think. But I went ahead and did a little searching, and there's another company, Groovy Hughes Fibers, excuse me, that I really, really enjoy. I've yet to knit with their yarn because I've already given it away as a prize, I think, 2 times instead. So I went ahead and checked that out. Suzanne Burkett is the dyer of Groovy Hughes Fibers. And I met Suzanne at the New Jersey Sheep and Wool Festival last year. And I went ahead and I ordered this for myself as another possibility for those possessed printer mittens. This is so, so pretty. And it cracks me up because the colorway name for this is Some People Hate Clowns. Okay, I don't like to use the word hate for anything, but I will be the first to admit that I'm not particularly a fan of clowns. They creep me out. So when I saw the colorway name for this, I'm such a sucker for a good colorway name. So Some People Hate Clowns. I was like, yep, that might be me. And some people also can't help but love the colors that she mixed up in here. So it is just fascinating and beautiful. So anyway, not really sure which one of these is going to turn into my possessed printer mitts, but stay tuned for that. Hopefully I'll have them on the needles by the time I film next. Okay. So, the other thing about that I also did too that I'm going to try for my next pair of mittens is I purchased for myself a set pair A, I guess you would just say A, size 5 9-inch circular needle. Hey, if the 9-inch circulars are working for me and giving me some good sock mojo, then I can't help it but want to see if it will actually work out well for the mitts and the mittens as well. So I think I might actually try that for these possessed printer mitts. Called for a size 5. I'm hoping I can get gauge. If I can't, I guess I'll have to buy, either size up or size down than what I purchased, but we'll see how it goes. I'll let you guys know how that works out. All right. Before as we transition into the next segment, which is where I'm going to talk about, so obviously my mitten challenge was one of my dreams and schemes. Another one of my dreams and schemes in 17 is my sock experimentation. So we've got the mittens, we've got the socks, we've got the mittens. And it cracked me up when I realized that these are 2 things I'm focusing on pretty intensely this year because for those of you who don't know, I was a school teacher for quite some time, and now I'm a language arts supervisor for kindergarten through 4th grade teachers. So if there's one other thing besides yarn that I'm obsessed with hoarding and collecting, it would be picture books. And so I am always on the lookout for a unique picture book that I've never seen or heard of before. And, I definitely have a collection of my favorites. One of my favorite picture books is actually this one. It's called Smitten by David Gordon. The subtitle for this picture book is A Lint-Free Love Story, which I think is adorable. The gist of this book is that it is actually about one sock and one mitten that end up getting lost, getting separated from their other pair. And they end up meeting one another. I don't want to give away anything, but they end up meeting one another. And they have all kinds of crazy adventures in the city together. What I am going to show you, though, is just a couple pages. I'm going to just read aloud a couple pages to you guys because I can't help it, because when I got to this part in the book, I was like, oh my God, this book is the best ever. I can't wait actually to read this one to my niece Madison. I think she'll get a kick out of it. Here we go. The train zoomed over them, and one of Mitten's threads got caught on the undercarriage. She unraveled into one very, very long piece of yarn. I don't feel so good, Mitten said. Don't worry, Mitten. I'm right here, said Sock. He gently gathered her up into a ball and hopped up the subway stairs. So here we go. As you can see, oh my gosh, I'm the worst at this. Can you kind of see? It's probably going to be switched on you guys, but you could see there she's unraveling, and then Sock picks her up, and now they head up the stairs, and I want you guys to see what comes next because it just made my heart so happy. Look where they end up. They end up in a knitting store. Holy cow. It's a knitting, perfectly organized by color, by the way, as you can tell, right? So here we go. After a lot of searching, Sock finally found a knitting store and snuck in. He grabbed a set of knitting needles and a good how-to book. I'll fix you right up, Mitten. This'll never work, Mitten groaned. But Sock kept knitting through the night to put his friend back together. So seriously, how adorable is that? Look at the concentration on the face of Sock as he's trying to learn how to actually knit Mitten back together. I just absolutely love this book. I wanted to share this with all of you because, I don't know, sometimes I think if you have small children in your life or grandchildren in your life, I think besides knitted items, of course, children's books are such amazing gifts to give to others, especially to kids. And I promise you this story is adorable. You won't be disappointed. So anyway, I thought it was funny too, because when you think of the title Smitten, that's what I am right now. It's all about the socks and the mittens. So I am definitely smitten, and I just wanted to share that book with you guys before I move on. All right. So we talked a lot about mittens. Now we're going to talk a little bit about socks for a few minutes. So another dream and scheme in 17 is what I'm referring to as Sock Experimentation 2017, which is where my goal by the end of the year, and who knows, maybe it will happen sooner than that, that would be lovely, is to finally figure out like the perfect formula for myself and for Jamie for socks. I'm not going to go too crazy trying to figure out like everybody else because I'm not 100% sure that I'm ever going to be a huge giver of socks or a knitter of gift socks for other people. I feel like it's a risky gift because it, unless you do like make the cardboard cutout for somebody or all that kind of stuff, I'm just always afraid that you're going to spend, or myself, I'm going to spend all that time knitting socks for people, and what if they don't fit in the end? So I feel like it's a little bit safer to kind of stick to the people I'm closest with. Maybe some close family members might get socks at some point, but for now, I'm just trying to figure out what works best for my foot, my feet, and for Jamie's. So anyway, the good news is that I am finished with a sock, and I was able to try a couple new things with this. So I have another hoe to share. This is my Lolo Did It. This was the January color of the month. This was her Grease colorway. As you can see, super pretty. I really loved it. I picked this out and picked this up and cast this on right around the time where everybody was knitting the pussy hats for the pussy hat project, because I thought it, for me, I kept seeing pink in everything and wanting to, I don't know, knit other pink things. And of course, when I think of Grease, I think of the pink ladies. So I thought, okay, I'm going to refer to these as my pink lady socks. A couple things. This was the first time. Is it the first time? I think one other time I did contrasting cuff, heel, and toe because I think it was with a Lollipop Yarns that came with the actual contrasting yarn. But I've not been one to venture out myself and find, leftover yarn to kind of do my own contrasting cuffs, heels, and toes. But this time I went ahead and I did that. I found some. This was actually from the dark gray that I used for the cuff, heel, and toe I think it was from my Carson shawl. So this was was it Madeline Tosh? I think it was a Madeline Tosh sock. So anyway, I just had leftover of that. I think it'll actually be a nice color to use as contrasting cuffs, heels, and toes. But what I was excited to try this time, if you look at my heel, I tried the OMG heel by Megan Williams. I had heard a lot about it. I thought it sounded kind of interesting. and I gave it a shot, and it definitely has a nice, I like it. I like the fit very much. I also liked the toe. So I basically did the entire pattern. So that included the toe. I liked how that came out as well. So I think overall I was pretty pleased and happy with sort of the different pieces that work together to make this sock. I also switched down for myself to a size 0, and it's kind of weird why I decided to do that. I had been making socks for Jamie on a size 1.5 9-inch circular needle. When he tried them on, he told me they were too big. So his first, sadly for him, his first, the one of 2 socks is knit with a size 1.5, and they're going to probably be a little on the bigger side, but he said he can deal with that because he knows that it's sock experimentation 2017. So, nothing's maybe going to be perfect. We're going to figure this out. But I thought to myself, okay, I normally knit, if I normally knit my own socks on a size 1, and now Jamie was suggesting I go down to a 1 for his socks, I thought to myself, you know what? With these for me, I'm going to go ahead and try them on a 0 and see if that works. And I do think they do. The only struggle that I'm having is that because of the issues with the swelling I have going on with my one foot at the moment, what I'm almost wondering is that, would it be weird that I have to do one sock on a 0 and one sock on a 1? I'm not sure. For now, I already started the second sock on a 0. I'm going to try them both that way and see how it goes. But it is something I guess I want to think about. I think that even on the 0s, though, they'll stretch out enough. The good news about my foot is that typically when I wake up in the morning, it's definitely not swollen. It's usually better and the swelling has gone down overnight. So I figure if I could shove my foot into the sock in the morning and it fits, I don't know, it'll probably get stretched out more as it swells up throughout the day, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes. So anyway, that was what I did with that first of that pair of Lolo Did It socks. Now I am on the second one, but here's the wacky thing. What I've decided to do, excuse all of my crazy ends here, that's one thing that I'm not a big fan of with contrasting cuffs, heels, and toes is I feel like every time you turn around, you've got some sort of end to weave in, but it does look really cute at the end, so I guess that's the price you have to pay, right? So anyway, here's the other one. I actually have quite a bit done, and I've already done the heel on this, but you may think I'm crazy. I went back to my Fish Lips Kiss heel for the second sock, and let me tell you why. Because again, if sock experimentation for me is about figuring out what I like best, what I'm struggling with is almost like I want to have different kinds, like one of one kind and one of another on my feet at the same time so that I actually can compare what I like the feel of better, as I'm walking around in the socks all day long, which I could do that, but I'd have to do that wearing 2 different socks. So I don't particularly care if I'm doing this pair of socks with 2 different types of heels because nobody's really going to know except for you now that I've just told you all about this. But I don't know. I'm curious because I definitely like the fit of the Fish Lips Kiss heel. And I like the pattern. I actually enjoy knitting that particular heel. So I think that I'm going to keep going with this. We'll see what happens. I'm actually going to do the same kind of toe that was from the OMG heel pattern because I did like how that turned out. So I'm hoping by the end of this pair of socks, what I will have figured out perhaps are a few things. One, whether I'm going to stick with the size 0s for myself. And 2, at least out of 2 different heels, will I decide which one I like better. The tricky thing about heels is there's so many different kinds of heels out there. I don't know how many different kinds I want to try throughout this year, or do I want to just figure out pretty quickly pick one that I know I like and just go with that. So we'll see. That's where I am with Sock Experimentation 2017. So I'm still dreaming and scheming my way through socks as well as the mittens. So that is where we are with that. I have one more project. It's hard to call this a project. It really is this is a pretty big deal. I talked about another one of my dreams and schemes in the last episode was that before the end of this year, I would like to have finished a shawl design, an original shawl design of my own. So I've gotten a jump start on that. I'm really excited about the process. And I think that's what I decided, is that I want to use this as something to talk to you guys about, especially for me as somebody who's never designed anything before. I'm not a math person. I'm not like this kind of stuff is not going to come easy to me. And I thought it might be interesting to kind of share the thought process with you guys along the way and kind of keep you abreast, as I'm showing you my boob in a minute, of how that whole design process is coming along. It really is interesting. And what's fascinating to me is already, and I'm sure this is completely normal, the only reason I don't have more done, I am ready to rip this out and start all over again already. I've shared a few pictures of this. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw this sort of in the works. So, and again, because I'm probably going to be talking about this a lot, every single time I do, I may not necessarily give you a lot of information about the yarn and all of that kind of stuff. But I did decide, because I know I'm going to be working on this a lot, I decided I wanted to work with the special yarn that my good friend Rhonda, who is the owner of the Yarn Attic, an amazing shop in central New Jersey, she had worked sort of secretly together with Savvy Skeins to kind of dye up what is, this is the Fickle Finter colorway. And I absolutely love it. Here it is all caked up as well, kind of a little bit messy, but I think it's going to be a lot messy by the time I'm done with all of this. So anyway, if you recall the last time, if you watched the last episode, I had shared that I had taken a shawl design class with Susan B. Anderson at Vogue Knitting Live. That was amazing. It was like it really probably was one of the classes I've taken that I've learned the most from out of any knitting or fiber related classes that I can remember taking. And what she did was she talked you through how to, sort of start the creation of 10 different shawl shape design patterns. So what I had decided, because, I couldn't just go with like the easier one, I had to jump right into the deep end here on this project, was I was fascinated by the shawl design. I don't have my sketch with me, I don't think. Do I? Let me check. I don't think I do. Anyway, I was fascinated with the shawl design where it started out with sort of a square panel in the middle, and then actually you build out sort of the sides of the shawl from there. So if you can picture this, this was growing to be the center panel of the shawl, and then what would happen is once you actually bind that all off, you would be picking up stitches on this side and picking up stitches on that side, and then actually the shawl would grow out from either side. Okay, so that's kind of the background on what I'm thinking for this particular shawl design. Couple problems, and they're not problems, I see them as learning opportunities that I'm running into, is I'm not really sure why I decided to do this, but for every new, basically what you're beginning with here, there's really no secret sauce. You're actually, every other row is an increase row where you end up adding 2 more stitches to each of the 4 double pointed needles. So each time, every other row, you're increasing by 8 stitches, which means that you have to increase 1 at the beginning of the needle, like at the beginning and at the end. So that what then is obviously happening here, as you can see, that's what's creating sort of these spines, the 4 spines that you have that are actually helping this shawl to sort of grow out from the center point. I love it. I still like that idea, but I've thought of 2 things. One, I'm not crazy about the decision that I made to, for my increases, I was doing a knit one, a knit one in the front and the back, and I don't know that I like the way that that's making the stitches sit particularly. So I want to try something different with that. But the other thing that I thought is I really would like to, I feel like you can't really see those spine stitches all that well. So what I'm thinking I would like to do is actually do a yarn over on either side of each of those spine stitches around, so that maybe that will actually make it look a little bit more pronounced. So long story short, that is where I am. I jokingly already said this, but I really, seriously, if that does not look like a boob, I don't know what does. So anyway, that is one of the dilemmas with this. The other dilemma, as you can see, is the needle situation. All right. These are, I believe, either 6 or 8 inch, now I can't even remember, 6 or 8 inch length DPNs. Size 6 I'm using. Obviously this is going to need to grow much bigger for it to be that center panel of my shawl. And what I'm noticing already is that I want to be able to really see better what it looks like as it's growing. But the larger and larger it gets, I'm going to have to be really smushing these stitches together. So it's going to be a little bit harder along the way to see it. Now, my friend Rhonda was able to get me 10-inch length double pointed needles. I think that's the largest they make though. So I'm going to try, when I cast this on this second time, I'm going to try working on that. If, as that starts to grow, even the 10 inches doesn't seem like it's going to be enough without it being so bunchy, my next step, I think, is probably going to try doing this on 2 circular needles and to see how that goes. But the one thing I like about the double pointed needles is that you can kind of see the square as it's growing and getting bigger. I'm at the point now where I could probably start taking some measurements, some gauge measurements in terms of sort of how many inches or how many stitches, what would you call that? The row count for how many stitches per inch by the rows, not necessarily the way you normally would measure for, this is what I'm talking about, you guys. This is so new for me, sometimes even to have the language to talk about it. I really have to think about it. So I think it's neat. I'm really enjoying this process. I thought it would bother me to rip this out, but let me show you. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm ripping it out right now in front of you guys. I am totally ripping this out. I'm not going to rip out the whole thing, but I just wanted you to see that it does not bother me in the least to be going ahead and ripping this out, and I'm going to be recaking that and starting all over again from scratch with my 10-inch DPNs. So that's where I am on, Dream and Scheme 2017 shawl design. We shall see. The only thing that I'm still a little bit fearful of, and I probably should have thought about this, is the fact that if I'm going to be reknitting and reknitting and reknitting with this yarn, I adore this. This yarn holds such a special place in my heart, and that's why I wanted to use it for this. But at the same time, it's why I'm scared to use it for this, because I don't want it to get ruined. The good news is that hopefully, if I really had to, I could just order another skein of it. I still have actually a skein of it to give away as a prize, but I'm holding on to that for something super special. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes, but I wanted to let you guys know that I'm still making some slow and steady progress and learning some things along the way with this whole shawl design thing. What I would appreciate from all of you, whether you are somebody who has designed a pattern before or somebody that has worked on the other end as, let's say, a test knitter or a tech editor or something like that, what I need to start investigating a little bit more are what are some of the steps that I have to be prepared for along the way. I know that at some point I'm going to need to find myself a tech editor for this. I also want to know, for people who design things, how many times do you knit your own design before you put it out to test knitters? So, these are all questions, really exciting, good ones that I think that I have, and I'm excited to ask them. So if anybody could shed some light for me, that would be fantastic. So, all right, moving right along. The next little bit, I just have some things to sort of show and tell and share with you guys that I'm very excited about. And then I'm going to end with a little bit of, another idea that I have brewing in my mind for this year. So, all right. So let me start with this. I've got a few things to show and tell, but one of the things that I'm really excited about this year is, and you'll see at the end of the episode, that I want to find and try some new dyers. And I mean, Instagram for me is probably the place. Instagram and, of course, watching other people's podcasts are probably where I get the best recommendations for new dyers and new yarns that I would like to try. And one that somebody whose Instagram feed I had been watching, like really absolutely loving all the time, is the Creative Obsession. That is Carrie. And for those of you who aren't aware of this, Carrie also has a podcast that I have been slowly catching up on all of her episodes, and I really enjoy Carrie so very much. I think I first heard of Carrie from Michelle and Leslie of the Naughty Nitwits podcast. They haven't steered me wrong once yet, and this time again, they definitely have not. So, I've been watching Carrie's podcast. She is into so many different kinds of crafts. She always has a beautiful quilt hanging in the background when her, each new podcast starts, and she tells you a little bit of the story behind that quilt. So, I'm not going there, by the way. No, I am not quilting, at least not anytime in the near future, but I respect and admire people who do, because I think, especially too, I think for color theory and just learning about putting colors together, I think quilting is such a fabulous craft for that. So I think it's really cool to see people that are quilters and then they also end up dipping their toe into the dyeing pot, so to speak. If you're somebody who is a talented quilter and you have a knack for putting colors together, holy smokes, why not take that, like color intelligence and put it into a skein of yarn? I think that's brilliant. So I can see why I adore so many of Carrie's colors, because again, I think she really has a knack for knowing what to kind of put together. So anyway, I had wanted to order a skein of yarn from Carrie, and I did. This is what I purchased. This actually is unnamed. It was a limited edition, and I'm so excited that I ended up with this. But it is just absolutely beautiful. I make fun of my mom for loving this sort of like chartreusey green kind of color. She loves it independently by itself. Like just, as you can see, she would just love anything with that green. For whatever reason, I've always loved, oh God, the lighting, it's definitely I should have probably done this part of the podcast when it was a little bit still lighter outside. It's starting to get dark. And even with my super fancy podcast lights, I'm not sure that this is doing the color. Oh, that's a little bit better. But I love mixing this green, particularly with pinks. So when I saw this come up on Carrie's Instagram feed, I think, or maybe I even discovered it directly in her Etsy shop, but I was like, holy cow, I have to have that. So I am so excited. This is her lovely sock base, which is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. It's about 400 yards in this skein, so it's a nice size skein. And again, Carrie has, this is an Etsy shop, The Creative Obsession. I'm going to make sure, if I didn't already, I'll put that information down there. When I ordered this, I sent Carrie a little note and I said, just kind of gave her the heads up. And I said, from one fellow podcaster to another, I am totally going to brag on you big time when I show this on the podcast. Is there anything that you would like me to tell people about you or your process or anything like that? So I just wanted to share with you a little part of the note that she had written to me. Basically about her inspiration, and that she says her inspiration mostly comes from nature and experimentation. And I love that she just says it's always nice when it works out, because as we know, sometimes experiments don't. That's why it's an experiment. But girl, if this was an experiment, I hope it's one you can repeat, because this one is a beauty. The other exciting thing that Carrie did was she popped in a little surprise for me, not really for me, but for you guys. And that is another skein, which is this one, which is equally as lovely. I feel like it's better when I hold it sideways like that. Look at how pretty. Wow, so pretty. This one actually does have an actual name. It is called Autumn Blaze. And again, it's her lovely sock base once again, which is that 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. And I actually think that I have decided, as I sort of alluded to earlier, that this is the prize I'm going to give out for the random Hats of Kindness Cal. If you wanted to do a really cool fingering weight hat, I think this would be a beautiful skein for that. Of course, it would be an amazing sock as well, or even pairing it up with a shawl. When I first saw this, I was thinking, I'm still trying to find my fade, and it was really tempting because this actually looked like something that was kind of close to some of my fade colors. But anyway, I'm going to be nice. This is not for me. This is for you because I have this. So, Carrie, thank you so much. I'm so excited to continue watching your podcast.